If you can dance this waltz, I'll adopt you." Ronald Whitmore's voice rang out like the crack of a judge's gavel in a courtroom. The crowd fell silent, no music, no laughter, only stunned glances flickering between the billionaire and the little girl at the edge of the marble floor. A few guests laughed, unsure whether it was a jest. "She doesn't even have shoes," a woman in diamonds whispered, lips twisted into a grin. But Ronald wasn't smiling. He took a slow sip of his scotch and added, "If she stumbles even once, she goes back to the shed. That's where barn mice belong." A hush of discomfort swept the ballroom. Gasps. Low murmurs. Uneasy shifting of shoulders. Anna blinked, her small brown eyes meeting his gaze across the glowing dance floor. Her dress hung loose at the seams, her feet bare and dusty. Her fingers wrapped around the cracked handle of a battered radio. Someone near the stage muttered, "This is disgusting." Another whispered, "Is this child abuse or just billionaire boredom?" Samuel, her grandfather, stood frozen by the French doors, knuckles white. His eyes darted to Anna, silently begging her to stay back. But she took a step forward. Then another. "She's actually going to do it." Someone whispered in disbelief. Ronald tilted his head, amused. "So you accept? Little mouse?" Anna swallowed hard, then lifted her chin. "I'm not a mouse," she said, her voice clear, almost too calm. "And you don't scare me." Whispers rippled. The guests weren't sure whether to laugh or applaud. Ronald raised an eyebrow. "You're a very brave little weed." "I might be a weed," Anna replied, "but weeds grow where your fancy roses die." If you felt a connection with the character, give this video a like to show your support, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Who knows? Someone nearby might be watching with you too. The room stilled. Even Ronald blinked. Then she walked to the center of the ballroom, placed her scratched radio gently on the floor, and clicked play. Static first, then a tinny, crackling version of the Blue Danube. But just before she could take the first step, a boy emerged from the opposite side of the room. "I want to dance with her," he said. Gasps again. The boy, Ethan Belmont, son of Senator Belmont, looked around, chin high. "Ethan," his mother hissed from the table. "Come here this instant." He ignored her. She shouldn't have to be alone. He walked up to Anna and held out his hand. She hesitated. "You sure?" she asked. He nodded. "You're not scared, are you?" "I'm scared," Anna admitted, "but not of dancing. I'm scared of stopping." "Good," Ethan said, taking her hand. "Then let's not stop." They began to move, hesitant at first. A clumsy turn here, a missed beat there. But something in their movement childish, genuine, bold cut through the luxury of the ballroom like a spark in a storm. "I've never danced before," Ethan whispered. Anna grinned. "Me neither. We'll fake it better together." Around them, the crowd was silent. Even Ronald had lowered his drink. They danced not for elegance, not for applause, but as children who dared to defy what was expected of them. Awkward, barefoot, too young, too small but unforgettable. The waltz ended. They stood still, breathless, hands still joined. Anna turned to Ronald, her voice steady. "Well," she said, "do you keep your word, or only when it's easy?" Ronald blinked, as if waking from a strange dream. He turned to his guests, half expecting someone to laugh and shatter the illusion. But the room had changed. The amusement was gone. Now, there was something else, something unsettling on their faces. Respect for the girl. And a subtle question pointed squarely at him. "Do you?" He cleared his throat and set down his glass. "Of course I keep my word," he said slowly, brushing a speck of invisible lint from his lapel. "I always have." With that, he turned and walked off the dance floor, murmuring something to his assistant. The crowd hesitated, unsure whether to clap or retreat. In the end, they chose polite applause, thin, awkward, and quickly swallowed by music once more. Anna exhaled for the first time in what felt like minutes. Her knees trembled. Her small fingers slipped out of Ethan's hand. She looked up at him. "Thanks," she whispered. He smiled. "You're kind of amazing." "I think I'm kind of dizzy," she said, giggling a little. Samuel rushed forward, pushing through the crowd, face red with concern. "You shouldn't have." "I had to," she said quickly. "He dared me." Samuel crouched to her level. Dares from powerful men aren't games, baby. They're traps. I didn't fall in. He studied her, this little girl with the heart of a lion and the feet of a dancer. No, you didn't, he said softly. But you scared me half to death. They hugged, and for a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them. Then came the voice. Mr. Whitmore would like to see the girl in the study, said a young man in a black suit, expression unreadable. Samuel stood, protectively placing an arm in front of Anna. For what? To discuss terms, the man said. Anna tugged at Samuel's shirt. I'll go. He looked down at her, torn between fear and pride. Only if I come too, he said firmly. The assistant gave a small nod. As you wish. Inside the study, the mood shifted. The warmth and grandeur of the ballroom were replaced with cold mahogany and the faint scent of cigar smoke. Ronald sat behind a massive desk, fingers steepled, eyes sharp. Anna stood before him, back straight, chin up. Samuel stayed close, his calloused hand resting lightly on her shoulder. Ronald spoke first. You made quite an impression tonight. Anna didn't answer. He continued, You embarrassed me, publicly. I don't take well to that. You said if I danced you'd take care of me, she said. I did, he admitted. And I will. I'm a man of my word. But let's be clear, this isn't a fairy tale. I'm not a prince, and this mansion isn't a castle. I don't do bedtime stories. I don't need stories, Anna replied. I just need a chance. Ronald studied her, surprised. There was no tremble in her voice, no pleading in her eyes. He turned to Samuel. I'll cover her schooling. Private, of course. Uniforms, tutoring, meals, and she'll stay here under supervision. Samuel tensed. She needs love, not just logistics. She'll get safety, stability, structure, Ronald said flatly. You'll still work here. You can see her every day, but she'll be under my care. Anna looked between them. She didn't understand all the terms, but she understood one thing. Things were changing. Can I still have my radio? She asked. Ronald blinked. Your what? My radio, the one that plays the waltz. He hesitated, then waved his hand. Fine. And can I visit my mom's grave every Sunday? Another pause. That's acceptable. And my grandpa gets dinner with me on Fridays. Now, Ronald actually smiled. It was the faintest twitch of his lips, but it was there. You're already making demands? I'm making agreements, she said. Samuel choked back a laugh. Ronald leaned back in his chair, regarding the girl like a puzzle he hadn't realized he'd started solving. Fine, he said at last. But if you're going to live under my roof, you'll learn discipline. There will be no pity here. I don't want pity, Anna said. Just space to grow. Outside the study, the night resumed with the clinking of glasses and the echo of waltzes. But inside, something far more profound had just taken place. Ronald stood and extended a hand. Welcome to Whitmore Estate. Anna looked at the hand, then took it. Not like a child, but like someone signing a silent treaty with a man who had forgotten how to feel. And so it began. Not a fairy tale, but something far rarer. A new chapter, a new fight, a chance to prove that where you come from doesn't define where you can go. As Anna left the study with Samuel beside her, she glanced up at the grand staircase and whispered to herself, one step at a time. The next morning, Anna woke to a bed as wide as the kitchen she used to share with her grandfather. Silky sheets, polished floorboards, a tall window that spilled warm sunlight onto her face. It didn't feel real. She sat up slowly, eyes darting around the enormous room, golden frames, high ceilings, velvet curtains. It was all so quiet. There was no humming kettle, no clinking of Samuel's gardening tools outside, no chirping radio static, only silence. And yet, this was her new home. Downstairs, the estate bustled with staff. Maids polished banisters. A chef barked orders in the kitchen, and in the greenhouse, Samuel trimmed vines with a thoughtful frown. His calloused hands moved instinctively, but his mind was elsewhere. At breakfast, Anna was escorted to the dining room by a housekeeper named Claire. The table could seat 20, but only one other chair was occupied by Ronald Whitmore, already reading the Wall Street Journal, a black coffee untouched beside him. Sit, he said without looking up. Anna obeyed. She was too short for the chair, and her toes dangled above the floor. A butler approached and placed a silver plate in front of her. Eggs, bacon, toast cut into perfect triangles. She stared. Is something wrong? Ronald asked, folding the paper. I usually have cereal, she said. He looked at her for a long beat, then nodded to the butler. Bring cereal tomorrow. She smiled slightly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, he muttered. You have your first evaluation today. Of? Evaluation? Ronald leaned forward. This isn't a free ride, Anna. If you want to stay here live here, you'll be tested. Schoolwork. Etiquette. Focus. I'll expect nothing less than excellence. Anna hesitated, then asked, Will Ethan be there? Ronald's brows lifted. The Belmont boy? Why would he be? He helped me. I thought maybe he'd keep helping. Ethan is a guest, not a servant. Don't confuse kindness for commitment. Anna didn't reply, but the words sat uncomfortably in her chest. Later that morning, she was led to a bright room filled with books, a chalkboard, and a stern-looking tutor named Miss Valerie. The woman's bun was tight, her posture straighter than a fence post. And her first sentence was, We start with posture and grammar. Speak like a lady, stand like a lady, and think like one. Anna spent hours reciting, copying, repeating. Her fingers cramped, her head ached. But she didn't complain, not once. During the lunch break, she snuck outside, found Samuel tending to a row of marigolds. Are you okay, Pumpkin? He asked, wiping sweat from his brow. I think my brain's full, she sighed, dropping beside him on the garden bench. Samuel chuckled. That means it's growing. I miss the backyard, she whispered, and our porch, and your burnt toast. He smiled sadly. Me too. Do you think he meant it? She asked. Meant what? That he'd keep me here, or is he just waiting for me to mess up? Samuel didn't answer right away. Then he said, Ronald Whitmore is a man who keeps promises, especially the ones made in public. But whether he keeps them with heart, we'll have to see. That afternoon, Anna returned to the ballroom, the same marble floor where everything had begun. Miss Valerie introduced a dance instructor named Mr. Frederick, who bowed dramatically and demanded grace from the moment Anna stepped onto the tiles. Back straight, elbows up, no up, not out. You're not swatting flies. Anna struggled, slipped once, and caught herself. Again, he barked. She bit her lip and kept going. The room echoed with piano notes and corrections. Her feet ached, her dress clung with sweat. Then, as the lesson ended and Mr. Frederick turned away, a voice whispered from the doorway. Your left turns are better. She spun. Ethan stood there, grinning. You watched? She asked. Couldn't help it. You kind of take over a room. Anna smiled despite herself. Ronald says, You're just a guest. I'm a guest with a bike, he said. Want to sneak a ride later? She hesitated. I'm not allowed off the property. The path's behind the greenhouse. No one will see. A thrill ran through her chest. It felt like rebellion. It felt like freedom. She nodded. That evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Anna tiptoed past the fountain and met Ethan near the garden gate. He had 2 bikes, one clearly borrowed from staff. They rode without helmets, without rules, just laughter and wind. At the top of a grassy hill, they stopped to rest. You're not what I expected, Ethan said. What did you expect? Someone is scared, someone quiet. I am scared, she said. You don't look it. I just got good at hiding it. He was quiet for a moment. Then, You're going to change this place. Anna blinked. What do you mean? I don't know, but when you danced, everything shifted. Like, you cracked something open. She looked at the sky, stars beginning to prick the purple canvas above. I just danced, she said softly. Yeah. And everyone saw it. When she returned that night, Claire the housekeeper was waiting at the door. You're not supposed to be out, she scolded gently. Anna's smile faded. Mr. Whitmore noticed. Anna's heart dropped. Claire leaned down and whispered. But he said, let her have the hill. And just like that, something changed again. Not the whole house, not Ronald, but something. A sliver of trust. A beginning. The morning after the hill ride, Anna awoke to find a small envelope slipped under her bedroom door. Her name, written in elegant cursive, danced across the cream paper. She sat up, heart quickening, and opened it with trembling fingers. "Miss Anna, you will be dining with Mr. Whitmore at precisely 7 p.m. this evening. Proper attire required. You may select a dress from the guest wardrobe. Claire." Anna reread the note twice. A dinner? With him? Her stomach fluttered not with excitement, but something heavier, a knot of questions. She remembered his sharp gaze, his carefully measured words. Even his kindness felt conditional, calculated. Still, by evening, she stood in front of the long mirror inside the guest wardrobe chamber. Claire had helped her into a deep blue velvet dress. It was a little too big, the sleeves brushing her wrists. But it made her feel older, steadier. Her hair had been brushed and tied with a navy ribbon. She didn't recognize herself. "You look like someone they'd let in through the front door," Claire had said, half joking. Anna walked down the grand staircase slowly, one hand gliding along the polished banister. With each step, she rehearsed what she might say. "Thank you. Yes, sir. I'm doing my best." When she entered the dining room, Ronald was already seated. The long table stretched between them like a quiet challenge. Only 2 place settings were arranged, one at each end. "You're late," he said without looking up from a stack of folders. "It's 6:59, she replied, voice small but steady. Ronald lifted his eyes, raised a brow. Then, to her surprise, he nodded approvingly. Punctuality with backbone. Good. A butler poured water into their glasses. Another brought warm bread and soup. For several minutes, they ate in silence. The silver clinked softly. The air was thick, with unspoken tension. Finally, Ronald cleared his throat. "Your tutor tells me you read at a 6th grade level." Anna blinked. "Is that bad?" "It's unexpected. I like reading," she said. "Stories help me go places I haven't been." Ronald took a sip of wine. "Well, you're somewhere now." She frowned slightly. "That doesn't mean I want to stop going." He studied her across the table, as if seeing something beneath the dress, beneath the girl. "You'll need more than imagination to stay here," he said. "Discipline, poise, restraint." "I have discipline," she replied. "I just don't have shoes that fit yet." A pause. Then, to her astonishment, Ronald let out a soft chuckle. It was brief and tightly contained, but it was real. "Claire will arrange a fitting," he said. The rest of the dinner passed more quietly. She asked a few questions about the large painting in the hallway, about the strange brass telescope on the second-floor balcony. Ronald answered, curt, but not unkind. And when dessert was served, a slice of lemon tart, he watched as she took her first bite. "You have good taste," she said through a grin. "I have expensive taste," he corrected. "I'll learn the difference," she replied. Later, as she climbed the stairs back to her room, Anna replayed every word in her head. It had gone better than she expected. No scolding, no tricks, just tension wrapped in velvet. But the peace didn't last long. The next morning, Ethan didn't show up near the greenhouse as he usually did. Anna waited by the marigolds, toes digging into the gravel. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Nothing. Later that afternoon, she spotted him in the East Wing hallway, walking fast beside a tall woman in sunglasses, his mother. He didn't wave, didn't even glance her way. That evening, over study drills with Miss Valerie, Anna's concentration faltered. Her pen scratched harder. Her posture slipped. Her answers came late. "Focus, Anna," Valerie snapped. "You were sharper yesterday." Anna clenched her jaw. "Yesterday, I had a friend." Miss Valerie narrowed her eyes. "Friendships are luxuries, not rights." That night, Anna stood by her bedroom window, staring out toward the hill. The wind danced with the tall grass. The moonlight stretched long across the estate. But the ache inside her chest stayed heavy. On the 4th day, she saw Ethan again, this time in the library. He sat beside his mother and Ronald, flipping through a portfolio of architectural sketches. She approached slowly, careful not to interrupt. His mother spotted her first. "That girl again?" she said, her tone sharp as glass. "She's invited," Ronald replied calmly. "I didn't know charity came with a dress code," she muttered. Anna froze. Ethan glanced up, eyes conflicted. "Hi, Anna," he said quietly. She didn't smile. "You stopped showing up." "I had lessons with my father. You didn't say goodbye." "I didn't know how," he admitted. Ronald closed the folder. "Anna, come here." She stepped forward. "These are designs for the community center we're building in town," he explained. "Do you know what that is?" "A place where people come together," she said. He nodded. "You'll be attending the opening in 2 weeks. You'll speak." Anna's eyes widened. "What?" "You're the story, the symbol, a child given a chance. That's what donors pay attention to." "I'm not a symbol," she said, voice rising. "I'm a person." Ronald's gaze cooled. "And if you want to stay here, you'll act like one. Do you understand?" Ethan looked between them, guilt flashing across his face. Anna turned to Ronald. "If I say something, it'll be my truth, not your version of it." A long silence followed. Then, to her surprise, Ronald nodded once. "Fair," he said, "but make it graceful." She turned to leave. Behind her, she heard Ethan whisper, "She's braver than all of us." And she was, even if her hands still trembled behind closed doors. Even if the echo of footsteps reminded her that this house, this opportunity was both a home and a test, and she was determined to pass both. The day before the charity event, the estate felt different, quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It was the hush of preparations, of people tiptoeing around tension. Florists scurried in and out, carrying blossoms by the armload. Chefs shouted instructions in the kitchen. Security men moved through the halls like shadows. Anna watched it all from the second-floor landing, arms folded tightly. She had barely seen Ronald since the library confrontation. He was busy, everyone said. Meetings, donors, calls. She hadn't seen Ethan either. Claire said he'd returned to the city for a few days. Anna wondered if he'd come back in time to hear her speak. If she spoke, that afternoon, while waiting for her tutoring session, Anna wandered the west wing, a part of the estate she had rarely been in. The hallway was darker, quieter. Portraits of ancestors lined the walls, all with the same cold eyes and thin lips. The carpet muffled her footsteps. Then she saw it, a door unlike the others, painted white, but chipped along the edges. No gold nameplate, no polish, just a single brass doorknob. Drawn by instinct, Anna reached for it. It creaked open into a room filled with dust and silence. Furniture covered in sheets. A faint scent of lavender, long faded. And on the far wall, a large framed photo of a young girl in a ballerina dress, mid-spin, caught in the blur of motion. Her smile was bright, alive. She looked about Anna's age. Her name was Elise. Anna spun around. Ronald stood in the doorway, his eyes unreadable. "Who was she?" Anna asked softly. "My daughter." The air seemed to shift. Even the dust held its breath. "She died when she was 7, he continued. "Car crash. My wife. She didn't make it either." Anna swallowed, suddenly aware of the weight in his voice. "I wasn't home that night," Ronald said. "I was in Tokyo, closing a deal. I missed her last recital. I watched the recording on a flight back, 6 hours too late." Anna turned to the photo again. "She looks happy." "She was," he said. "Until the world reminded us it doesn't care how much money you have." A silence stretched between them. Then Ronald stepped inside, pulled a cloth off an old music box on a nearby shelf. He wound it gently. A soft melody began to play, delicate and mournful. "She danced to this," he said. "Over and over. Said it made her feel like flying." Anna watched the little ballerina twirl on top of the box. She was chipped at the base but still spun gracefully. "Why did you bring me here?" Anna asked. Ronald met her eyes. "Because tomorrow, when you stand in front of those people, I need you to understand something. You're not just a symbol. You're a memory in motion. You're reminding me what I forgot." Anna stepped closer to the music box. "And what's that?" "That sometimes grace isn't about perfection. It's about showing up when you don't have to." She thought about her mother's funeral. About dancing on marble in a torn dress. About Ethan's quiet courage and Samuel's tired hands. I'll tell them the truth, Anna said. About where I come from. And what I want to become. Ronald nodded. Then they'll listen. The next morning, Anna stood behind the velvet curtain backstage at the community center, dressed in a pale yellow dress Claire had chosen. Her hands were clammy, her stomach twisted. She could hear the crowd gathering. Murmurs, laughter, the clink of champagne glasses. Samuel appeared behind her, placing a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to be anyone but you. I'm scared, she whispered. That's how you know it matters. Then Ethan appeared at her side, hair combed, wearing a dark blazer. He handed her something, a folded piece of paper. What's this? A poem, he said, for after your speech, just in case you want to end strong. She smiled, eyes shining. You came back. I promised, he said. Even if I didn't say goodbye right. Ronald's voice boomed from the stage. And now, a voice that proves talent has no address, and courage has no pedigree, Miss Anna Lawrence. She stepped forward into the light. A whoosh fell. She stared at the sea of faces, elegant, expectant, indifferent, and then she spoke. My name is Anna, she began. I don't come from wealth. I don't come from perfect circumstances. But I come from love. From my grandfather's garden. From the radio that played waltzes in the dark. From a mother who taught me that being small doesn't mean being weak. She took a breath. I live now in a big house with long hallways and rules I'm still learning, but I don't belong to that house. I belong to something bigger, the belief that anyone, no matter how broken or barefoot, can dance their way into a better life. Scattered applause, then rising. She glanced at Ethan, pulled the folded paper from her pocket, and read the final lines. If you see a child dancing alone, don't look away. She might be rehearsing for the moment her world changes. She might be showing you what grace looks like when it's earned, not inherited. Thunderous applause. Some even stood. From the front row, Ronald didn't smile. But he placed his hand over his chest and nodded. Just once. And that was enough. 3 days after the community center event, Anna's speech was already making its rounds across social media. Someone had recorded it shaky, vertical footage with imperfect audio, but none of that mattered. The words had landed. In church groups, local schools, book clubs, and even small-town newspapers, people were talking about the barefoot girl who stood in front of a room full of billionaires and made them listen. But with attention came the shadows. Anna noticed it first during lunch with Claire. A pair of guests, unfamiliar and overdressed, whispered too loudly behind linen napkins. That's the girl, right? The charity case? She's otherworldly, like a pet project. She speaks well, must have had training. No way a gardener's granddaughter talks like that. Anna poked at her salad, appetite gone. Claire gave her hand a gentle squeeze under the table. Smile and stand taller, she whispered. It's the best way to unsettle people like that. That afternoon, Ethan brought a magazine into the library. On the cover was a photo of Ronald, standing beside Anna at the event. The headline read, Whitmore's New Legacy. A businessman's unlikely heir. Anna stared at it. Heir? What does that mean? Ethan hesitated. It means they think you're his new project. Or worse, his replacement. But I'm not, she said. I'm just me. Sometimes, Ethan said gently. Being just you is exactly what makes people nervous. Later that evening, Ronald summoned Anna to the study. He didn't greet her when she arrived. Just motioned to the leather chair across from his desk. His tone was businesslike. You'll be attending a private brunch this Sunday with the mayor's wife and the president of the Women's Arts Council. Anna blinked. But it's Sunday. I go to the cemetery with Samuel on Sundays. They've requested you personally, Ronald said, not looking up. It's important. But, Anna, he said sharply, this is part of the responsibility. You wanted to grow. Growth comes with trade-offs. She clenched her fists in her lap. My mom's grave isn't a trade-off. Ronald stared at her. There was a long silence. Then he sighed. You'll go to the cemetery Saturday. I'll arrange the car. She nodded stiffly. Thank you. But as she left the room, something felt fractured. The warmth she had begun to feel here, small and cautious, cooled again. She remembered what Samuel had said. Dares from powerful men aren't games. They're traps. The trap was comfort, and now it was tightening. On Saturday morning, Samuel took her to the cemetery. The trees swayed quietly. The gravestone, modest and clean, sat under a maple tree. Anna knelt beside it, brushing leaves from the stone. "I miss you," she whispered, "but I think you'd be proud." Samuel stood nearby, hands in his coat pockets. "She would be," he said. Anna looked up. "Do you ever think I made the wrong choice?" He shook his head slowly. But I think Ronald is starting to forget why he made his. They returned to the estate by early afternoon. The air was unusually still. Too still. Then Claire met them at the entrance, eyes anxious. "There's been a leak," she said. "A reporter got hold of Ronald's will." Anna blinked. "His will?" Claire nodded. "It names you as a potential beneficiary." "What does that mean?" Anna asked, heart thudding. "It means if anything happens to him, you might inherit everything." Anna's jaw dropped. "But I don't want that." Doesn't matter," Claire said. "Others do, and now they know." The days that followed became a quiet battlefield. Staff grew colder, whispers sharpened, invitations stopped arriving. Miss Valerie became stricter. The pastry chef stopped including Anna's favorite tart in the afternoon trays. Ethan stood by her side. But even he was pulled more and more into his father's political orbit. And then, one night, Anna overheard a conversation outside Ronald's office. "He's making a mistake," a deep voice said. "Giving that girl access? It's dangerous. She's a child," said another voice, one she recognized as Ronald's lawyer. "A smart one. She's from nothing, and she'll return to nothing if you don't stop this." Anna backed away, heart pounding. That night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, the shadows shifting across it, thinking about Elise, about the music box, about how quiet the house felt despite all its grandeur. The next morning, she found Ronald in the greenhouse, alone. For once, no staff hovered nearby. "Did you really put me in your will?" she asked. He didn't look surprised. "I did." "Why?" "Because you're the only person in this house who tells me the truth. But now they hate me," she whispered. "They think I want to take everything." Ronald looked up. "Do you?" She shook her head fiercely. "I don't want things. I want people to stop seeing me as a threat." He exhaled slowly. "Then we show them what legacy really looks like." Anna looked at him carefully. "And what does that mean?" He stood, wiped his hands on a cloth. "It means we build something bigger than this house. And we let them watch you do it." From that moment, the storm around her didn't stop. But Anna no longer ducked from it. She walked through it. And soon, others would have no choice but to follow. By the following week, Anna could feel it in the walls. The house whispered now, not with voices exactly, but with looks, glances, doors that closed when she walked by. Her place at the table felt smaller. Conversations paused when she entered a room. Servants smiled with their mouths but not their eyes. At first, she tried to ignore it. She practiced her lessons harder. Her posture never faltered. She greeted everyone politely. But the weight of being watched, judged, suspected, it crept beneath her skin like cold rain. Even Miss Valerie, once rigid but fair, now seemed distant. "Your arithmetic is sloppy today," she snapped one morning. "Are you distracted?" "No, ma'am," Anna replied quietly. "Then stop acting like a child and perform like the young lady you're pretending to be." The word pretending hit harder than any ruler slap. That afternoon, she retreated to the garden. Samuel found her curled on the stone bench, knees hugged to her chest. "You look like you're trying not to exist," he said, sitting beside her. "Maybe I am." He handed her a warm biscuit wrapped in a napkin. When flowers start growing taller than expected, weeds get nervous. Anna bit into the biscuit, savoring the buttery flake. "Everyone thinks I'm here to take something." Samuel looked at her. "Then show them you came to build." Her eyes narrowed. "How?" Samuel smiled slowly. "By building something no one can tear down." The The very next day, Anna made a decision. She marched into the library, where Ronald was reading alone by the fireplace. "I want to start a program," she said without preamble. He lowered his papers, studying her. "A program? For girls like me. Smart, curious, but from nowhere fancy. A place where they can learn without being laughed at. Where they don't have to pretend to belong." Ronald raised an eyebrow. "You're 11. I'll be 12 in 4 months," she replied. "Besides, you told me legacy is what we build. Let me build something." He stared at her long enough to make her shift uncomfortably. "Then," he said, "draft a proposal. Present it to the board at next week's donor brunch." She blinked. "You're serious?" "As serious as your ambition." Anna threw herself into the task like a storm. She studied late into the night. Claire helped her format the document. Ethan proofread her speech. Samuel suggested names. They chose the Elise Initiative, after Ronald's daughter. On the day of the brunch, Anna stood in front of 24 powerful men and women, her chin high. Her voice didn't tremble this time. "I don't want to be the exception," she said. "I want to be the beginning." By the time she finished, the room had stilled. Even the mayor's wife wiped away a tear. One donor stood. "Who's advising her?" "No one," Ronald said proudly. "She's advising us." Applause followed, real applause. And yet, as the guests mingled, Anna noticed a man standing at the back of the room. Tall, sharp suit, sharper smile. He hadn't clapped, just watched. Later that night, Claire told her his name was Mr. Davenport, Ronald's longtime business rival. "He's dangerous in a polite way," Claire whispered. "The kind who compliments your shoes while checking your footing." Anna didn't sleep well that night. Her dreams were filled with tangled waltzes and faceless people whispering behind velvet curtains. Over the next week, support for the Elise Initiative grew. Donors pledged funding. Letters poured in. The local news requested interviews. Anna, still learning to tie some of her dresses without help, found herself answering questions about educational equity. But success came with costs. Some staff became colder still. Miss Valerie asked to be reassigned. Rumors surfaced that Ronald was being manipulated, taken advantage of. Ethan grew quieter. His father had started pulling him from the estate for longer periods. One evening, Anna sat alone in the music room. The light outside faded into indigo. The piano, untouched for years, sat waiting. She pressed a key gently. "Middle C," a voice said from the doorway. Ronald stepped inside, tie loosened, eyes tired. "You look like you've been thinking too loud," he said. "I don't know if I belong here anymore," Anna admitted. "Now that people are noticing." He walked over, sat beside her on the bench. "Belonging isn't about being accepted. It's about refusing to leave just because it's hard." She looked up. "Is that how you built all this?" He chuckled. "I built it because I hated being told no." Anna played another note. "I think I'm starting to understand that." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've done more in 2 months than most adults do in years." But power doesn't just invite admiration, it invites envy. And envy never whispers. It poisons. Anna turned to him. "Then how do I stop it?" "You don't," he said. "You outlive it." Outside, the wind pressed against the windows. Inside, a girl and a man sat side by side in the dimming light, not as owner and guest, not as legacy and beneficiary, but as two people who knew what it meant to dance in silence and still be heard. And in that moment, Anna knew the whispers in the hall no longer defined her. She was becoming a voice louder than any murmur, a presence stronger than any rumor. The house would have to adjust, because she wasn't leaving. One crisp morning, as golden sunlight poured over the estate's eastern gardens, Anna found the greenhouse door wide open, unusual for that hour. She stepped inside, expecting to find Samuel tending to the herbs or rearranging the flower beds, but the space was empty. That's when she saw it. Rows of tomato vines, toppled, pots shattered on the floor. The irrigation system, carefully rigged over weeks, now torn loose. The orchids Samuel's pride wilted, as if someone had turned the heat up overnight and left them to burn. Anna stood frozen. Her chest tightened. Who would do this? She ran back toward the main house, skirts flying, shoes clapping against stone. Samuel was in the kitchen, talking quietly with Claire. "Grandpa," she cried, "the greenhouse, it's been ruined." They ran back together. When Samuel saw the destruction, his breath caught in his throat. "It was fine last night," he muttered, kneeling beside a broken pot. Claire scanned the damage. This wasn't an accident. Within an hour, Ronald arrived, flanked by 2 estate security officers. He studied the wreckage with a grim face, then turned to Anna. "Did you see anyone near the greenhouse this morning?" She shook her head. "It was open when I got there, that's all." Samuel stood slowly, brushing soil from his knees. Whoever did this knew exactly what to target. These orchids aren't easy to kill, unless you know how. Ronald nodded to the guards. "Pull the security footage." Anna looked up. "Do you think this has something to do with the initiative?" Ronald didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared out toward the hedge line, deep in thought. That afternoon, tension wrapped itself tighter around the estate. Servants whispered louder. Some of the kitchen staff refused to make eye contact with Anna. Miss Valerie, who had only recently returned, stood with her arms crossed during Anna's grammar lesson, saying little beyond sharp corrections. In the evening, Ethan returned from the city. He found Anna in the library, rearranging books on a shelf, just to stay moving. "I heard about the greenhouse," he said. "Someone destroyed it," she replied. "They ruined everything Samuel planted." Ethan looked around before lowering his voice. "My father says the donors are nervous. Some of them think you're becoming too visible." Anna turned to him. "Too visible? I'm a kid trying to help other kids. Politics doesn't care about innocence," Ethan said quietly. "It only cares about control." Anna stared at the bookshelf. "I thought helping people was supposed to be the safe choice." Ethan shook his head. "Helping people is never safe when power's involved." Later that night, Anna sat in the music room again. The piano keys beneath her fingers felt colder than usual. She played a few notes, hesitant, melancholy. Ronald appeared at the door. "We found something," he said, "from the security tapes." Anna straightened. "Who was it?" Ronald handed her a tablet. On the screen, a grainy black and white clip showed the greenhouse door creaking open. A tall figure entered face, partially obscured by a hood, but just before they stepped inside, they turned slightly toward the camera. It was Miss Valerie. Anna's eyes widened. "Why would she? She's connected to Davenport," Ronald said. "Used to work for his sister. We found the wire transfer this morning. She was paid to stir things up." Anna sat in stunned silence. "So this wasn't about plants. It was about warning me." "No," Ronald said. "It was about scaring you into silence." Anna shook her head slowly. "But I won't stop. They can't make me." Ronald gave a rare, quiet smile. "That's exactly why they're worried." The next day, Miss Valerie was gone. No announcement, no explanation. Just a quiet removal. But the damage lingered. The board of the initiative met that weekend. Some members questioned whether Anna should continue to be its face. "It's too risky," one said. "Too volatile," said another. "The girl's involvement invites chaos." Ronald sat at the head of the long table, arms folded. "She is the initiative," he said. "Without her, it's just philanthropy for show." Still, compromise had to be made. Ronald proposed a co-chair, an adult with experience. To ease concerns and manage the logistics, Anna would remain the public voice, but decisions would go through the board. Anna agreed reluctantly. "If it keeps the doors open," she told Claire, "then it's worth it." But something had changed. That night, she found Samuel sitting in the garden, replanting what he could. Dirt lined his hands, sweat glistened on his brow. "Why do they hate me?" she asked. "They don't hate you," he said. "They fear what you represent." "And what's that?" "That the future might not need them." She sat beside him, watching his fingers press seeds into the soil. "You're not here to fight fire with fire, Anna," he said. "You're here to plant something that outlives the flames." She thought of Elise's music box, of Ronald's rare smiles, of Ethan's quiet loyalty. Then she nodded. "I'll plant louder, because if her presence made them nervous, her persistence would terrify them. And maybe, just maybe, change would finally bloom where the old world once stood. Autumn settled in with a chill that curled into the corners of Whitmore Estate. The trees wore coats of amber and rust, and every gust of wind sounded like the whisper of secrets long buried. The Elise Initiative had officially launched its pilot after-school program at a community center in Brookhaven, an hour outside the city. Anna had insisted on visiting in person. The trip changed her. She met girls who reminded her of her old self, bright-eyed but dimmed by circumstance. She listened to stories of absent fathers, overcrowded classrooms, hunger. She taught them how to use a library card, how to write in cursive, how to tell a story that could hold the room. And when she returned to the estate, she wasn't the same girl who had left. But the house had changed too. The whispers had gone quiet, replaced by something colder, distance. The kind that didn't come from doors closed or stairs exchanged, but from silence that felt permanent, like a polite freeze. It came to a head one evening over dinner. The long table stretched between them, Ronald at one end, Anna at the other. The chairs in between sat empty. Claire had called in sick. Ethan hadn't returned from his weekend away. Samuel was eating in the servants' wing. Per tradition, Anna moved peas around her plate, appetite fading. Ronald cleared his throat. "You met with the school director yesterday?" "Yes," she said. "They want to offer 2 more classrooms if we can supply supplies." "I'll handle the donation," he replied, cutting his steak. Quietly, "The board's getting uneasy again." Anna set her fork down. "Why do they get to be uneasy when they're not the ones walking through moldy classrooms?" Ronald looked up. "Because they fund the moldy classrooms." She held his gaze. "And I'm trying to replace them with better ones." There was a pause. Then he said, "Sometimes your fire burns too hot, Anna. It scares people." "Good," she said. "It should." He leaned back, observing her. "You're not a child anymore." "I don't think I ever was," she replied. A butler entered quietly, placing a manila envelope beside Ronald. He opened it, scanned the contents, then stiffened slightly. "What is it?" Anna asked. He folded the paper and placed it down. "There's going to be an audit." Someone filed a complaint. Anna's heart quickened. About the initiative? About how the estate's funds are being used. They're implying impropriety. Her stomach churned. "Do they think I'm stealing?" "They don't need to believe it," Ronald said. "They only need others to wonder." She stood. "So I'm a liability again?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and placed something on the table between them. A silver key. "What's this?" she asked. "The East Tower, the archive room." Anna stared at it. The room had always been locked. Ronald kept everything there: contracts, photos, letters. A map of his entire empire. "You want me to find something?" she asked. He nodded. "I want you to understand what came before you, and what comes next." That night, she crept into the tower alone. The room was colder than the rest of the estate, the walls lined with shelves and drawers. Files sorted by year. Binders labeled with initials. There were pictures of Elise, letters from Ronald's late wife, newspaper clippings from the 82nd when Whitmore Enterprises first went public. Hours passed. She sat cross-legged on the floor, flipping through history. Then she found it, a file labeled Eastbrook Project. Confidential. Inside were photographs of a housing development project Ronald had funded in his early years. Images of families displaced. Lawsuits. A court summary with Ronald's name in bold as a defendant. It ended with a sealed settlement. She stared at it for a long time. When she returned to the dining room the next morning, Ronald was sipping his coffee. "I found the file," she said quietly. "I assumed you would. You ruined lives," she said, "to build what's around us now." He didn't flinch. "Yes. And now you're trying to undo it with me." "Yes." She sat across from him. "Why?" "Because Elise died believing I was a good man," he said. "And I want you to become the woman she would have followed." Anna looked away. Her voice wavered. "You can't fix the past with a speech or a scholarship." "No," he said, "but I can give you the power to write something better." She stood, pushing her chair in. "Then let me write it my way." He gave a single nod. Before she walked out, he called after her. "Anna." She paused. "Just remember," he said. "Legacy isn't just what we leave behind. It's who's willing to carry it forward." She didn't answer. But that night, in her room, she wrote her first op-ed. We inherit both pain and power. And I plan to use the second to heal the first. It would publish the next morning in 3 local newspapers. The world was watching now, and Anna had only just begun to speak. The morning paper arrived at Anna's door just as dawn painted the sky in pastel strokes. Claire knocked gently and handed her a stack of broadsheets local newspapers from Brookhaven, Eastwood, and Mendon. The headline blazed across each front page, "Gardener's granddaughter speaks truth. Heiress with a mission." Anna stared at the words, heart both buoyed and burdened. Below the headline was her op-used, framed by a candid photograph. Her, in a simple dress, microphone in hand, eyes steady with purpose. She took a deep breath and began to read, "I inherit both pain and power. And I plan to use the second to heal the first." Fingers trembling, she read line by line about displacement, legacy, responsibility, about building instead of paving over. It was her heart laid bare across the pages. At breakfast, Ronald sat across from her, newspaper folded, coffee untouched. Anna placed her edition in front of him. He looked up slowly, eyes meeting hers. "You wrote that," he said simply. "I did," she replied, voice clear. He nodded. "So you meant it." The room was heavy with affirmation. She offered him a faint smile. Across town, the reaction was instantaneous. Letters poured in, some praising, others questioning, a few accusing, but more than voices of approval or doubt, the letters contained stories. A woman who never spoke in public, now inspired to speak to her child. A teacher who printed Anna's piece for her class. A young girl who doodled a flower and taped it to Anna's picture at school. At the estate, the kitchen buzzed with hushed discussion. One staff member whispered to another, "She's not just a guest anymore, she's changing things." Another added, "I saw a donor wiping tears." Ethan appeared that afternoon, carrying a folded newspaper edition, his eyes bright. "You're trending," he said, voice full of wonder. "Twitter, Instagram. Even your school's hashtag lit up." Anna pressed a hand to her chest. The noise, digital echoes of her words felt unreal, but not everyone was celebrating. A mounting crowd at the boardroom doors demanded integrity. Investors questioned Ronald's judgment. An op used by a child? "That's risky," they said. "Where's the oversight?" Ronald walked into the meeting without Anna deliberately. "I'll say this once," he told them firmly. "She's not a liability. She's the future." It was all he said. Board members exchanged uncomfortable looks, but no one challenged him again. That evening, Anna found herself alone in the music room, where the piano waited like a silent confessor. She pressed a key, letting the echo hang. Samuel arrived quietly with 2 mugs of decaf cocoa. He handed one to her. "You did it," he said softly. "I told truth," she said. He nodded, eyes misting. That's how change starts. They drank in silence until Ronald appeared in the doorway, the hush of his entrance gentle but deliberate. "Your words did this," he gestured to the newspapers scattered around. "And now, they'll demand more." Anna looked at the scattered pages, then at him. "Ambition doesn't end with a speech," he continued. "It grows when people pay attention. Are you ready?" She met his gaze, steady. "I am." He pushed the papers aside, tilted back in his chair. "Then we'll prepare. The initiative will expand, more centers, more programs, and I'll introduce you as the founder." Anna's breath caught. "But, no buts," he said, voice gentle yet unyielding. "You're not stepping aside. You're stepping up." Late that night, Anna sat on her windowsill, the world outside crowded with lights and newsstands now bearing her words. She thought of Elise's music box grace preserved in steel and song. She thought of her mother's lullabies, Samuel's garden, Ethan's quiet support, and she smiled, because she was no longer dancing alone. She was echoing in print, and the echo would not fade. The night crept forward, but Anna stayed awake, heart lit by purpose, because the next chapter wasn't about finding a voice. It was about using it boldly, wisely, unafraid. And in that quiet room, beneath golden chandelier and midnight shadows, a gardener's granddaughter prepared to build legacies worth inheriting. Winter was settling in with a hushed hush of snow that drifted over the grounds, turning the estate into a silent, luminous fairy tale, one that blurred the edges of reality and expectation. Inside, however, tension crackled like frozen branches, ready to snap. Anna stared out the window of the drawing room, watching the first flakes fall. She'd spent the morning at the Brookhaven Center, witnessing children giggle between bookshelves she helped stock and advising teachers overwhelmed by budget cuts. She'd traveled back feeling both triumphant and off-kilter, honest purpose in motion, colliding with the ever-tightening grip of elite scrutiny. When she returned, the house felt different. She passed through the grand hallway and sensed eyes flicker behind painted portraits. Quiet loungers, whispered staffers who once smiled now offered curt nods. Even the scent of cinnamon in the air felt more orchestrated than warm. She entered the study. Ronald sat in his tall chair, his face unreadable except for slight tension in his jaw. "Anna, come in," he said softly. She closed the door and sat on the leather chair across from him, the curt silence stretching between them. "I got a call," he began, placing a polished envelope in front of her. She lifted the lid, pulled out a letterhead embossed with the name Davenport and Associates, Inc. The contents read, "We are withdrawing support from the Elise Initiative, effective immediately." Anna's heart pinched. Davenport, Ronald's business nemesis, had rallied enough influence to sway major donors to pull out. It was strategy at its coldest. Remove the funding, isolate the movement, and silence the voice. She looked up sharply. "They're just scared I'll change something." "Dadu," Ronald sighed, uncharacteristically unsettled. "It's bigger than that. They don't want me vulnerable. They don't want us vulnerable. So they revert to fear as currency." Anna swallowed. "We need a plan B." He nodded. "I've already redirected some funds, but it's not enough. We need more backers, local governments, private grants, maybe even national media." Anna stood, invigorated by the challenge. "I'll write another OPU. I'll meet with sources. I'll ask Ethan's mother to talk to her social circle. You said legacy is built. Let's build." Ronald let out a breath that sounded like both relief and resignation. "You're unbreakable." That evening, Anna put pen to paper again. She wrote about displacement, resilience, and the quiet bravery of communities that refused to disappear. She spoke of funding not as charity, but as investment in potential. As she wrote the final line, she signed it Anna Lawrence, founder, Elise Initiative. At dinner, the house staff hesitated to meet her gaze. She served herself quietly, trying not to feel the chill. Claire sat across from her, frowning at her plate. "They're asking questions," Claire whispered. "The withdrawal has staff talking. Some are muttering about the risk of being associated with a charity that isn't secure." Anna nodded. "I'll change the narrative." Samuel entered, planting a gentle hand on her back. "We'll do it quietly, steadily," he said in her ear, "just like planting seeds in frozen soil." Anna squeezed his hand. Over the next week, Anna's op-ed appeared in regional and national columns, weaving into editorials discussing educational equity. A leading news outlet offered an interview, a visual platform that could reach thousands. She practiced responses late into the night, rehearsing her truth. Then came the breakthrough. A local business consortium pledged primary sponsorship. A public school district offered space if the initiative could deliver materials and staff. Donations trickled back not from billionaires, but from teachers, parents, struggling entrepreneurs who believed in Anna's voice. In the estate's dimly lit drawing room, Anna and Ronald reviewed the numbers. "They think retreat will silence you," he said. "But we used retreat to regroup." She smiled tiredly. "They'll have to follow us now." At the desk, they plotted next moves. An online campaign, community fundraisers, local partnerships. The movement shifted from elite donor dependency to grassroots, from fragile alliances to resilient networks. But change did not come quietly. That night, Anna found a snow-covered rose thrown onto the doorstep of her room. Petals stained red, edges clipped. A message. Thorns remember. She understood. Threats wouldn't disappear just because voices multiplied. But she also knew voices could drown threats. The next morning, she met Ethan in the foyer. He offered her a cup of hot chocolate and folded a small, meticulously printed map with the notes: community locations, routes, where help waits. He didn't say it, but she wasn't alone. As snow settled, alliances mutated in complexity. Some fractured, some hardened, some sprouted where least expected. In the quiet glow of her room, Anna taped a photo of Elise's music box above her desk. She pressed her palm to the brass surface. "I will grow what lasts," she whispered. Outside, the winter sky flared with pale dawn. Inside, a gardener's granddaughter prepared to bloom louder than the threats intended to stop her. Snow lay heavy on the grounds, transforming Whitmore Estate into a silent cathedral of white. The air smelled of pine and frost, the hush of winter wrapping the world in reflective calm. But inside the estate, the tension pulsed like a restless heartbeat. Anna sat at the window, watching her footprints fade from the stone path. Winter had a way of making everything feel paused. Even the walls felt eager to hear what came next. She turned away and sank into the window seat, clutching Ethan's map and feeling its creases like crevices in her own resolve. Outside the door, a knock. She recognized the soft, deliberate footsteps. Her grandfather entered, boots sheathed in snow, cheeks flushed. "You've been quiet," Samuel said, sitting beside her. "I'm worried," Anna admitted. "They're attacking our narrative, trying to scare people into silence." He nodded slowly. "But roots grow underground first. You just need to be patient." "Roots in winter," she mused. "Hardest roots of all." He smiled. "The strongest." Later that afternoon, Ronald called a meeting in the greenhouse against the icy marble, surrounded by fragile greenery that dared to live indoors. Anna, Samuel, Claire, and a handful of trusted staff members gathered. The air was warm with heaters, fragrant with damp earth and hope. Ronald began. "The board is still split. The initiative's future depends on restructuring. We need guidance, public involvement, and partnership." Anna straightened. "We already have people engaged. Not because they love me, but because they believe in the cause." A woman stepped forward. Miss Pruitt, a former school principal, now board advisor. "There are 3 things we can do," she said. "Create a scholarship fund, launch mentorship networks, and open a public showcase. Invite the community in." Anna met her eyes. "Then let's build all 3. Ronald nodded carefully. "We have the space. Now we have the plan. Let's move." By the weekend, the greenhouse was alive, seedlings sprouting, volunteers prepping donation bags, tables set with programs titled Elise Initiative, rooted in community. Anna surveyed the activity: teachers, parents, kids, staff all working quietly, purposefully. It felt like a heartbeat that refused to slow under pressure. That evening, she found Ethan waiting at the garden gate, lantern softening his outline. "Here," he said, offering a box tied with twine. Inside, carefully wrapped, was a single root from a sapling that Anna admired, one her grandfather had told her thrives when planted deep. "Plant it," Ethan whispered. "Grow it." Tears pricked her eyes. "I will." They walked inside quietly, carrying the root together. It felt like carrying a promise. 2 days later, the estate's gates opened to the public. The showcase welcomed neighbors, families, reporters, and once skeptical donors. Inside, makeshift classrooms buzzed with laughter and learning. Artworks by students lined the halls. A bulletin board displayed letters handwritten to Anna from children, saying what learning meant to them. She guided visitors through the greenhouse turned community library, pointing at each book, each shelf, each hopeful note. Volunteers served cocoa from a cart. Frosted windows let in golden light. At the center stands the young tree sapling planted earlier with Ethan and Samuel, its roots wrapped in care and earth. Anna placed her hand on the small trunk, feeling its fragile warmth. A donor from the city approached, shaking his head in wonder. "I thought this would be a PR task," he said. "But it's real." Anna looked at him. "Real change doesn't follow press releases." She paused. "It starts when we stop pretending and start acting." Later, Ronald joined her near the sapling, his breath misted between them. "You did it," he said quietly. Anna nodded. "We did it." He looked out at the crowd, teachers smiling, kids skipping, volunteers speaking with kindness. "And you're not done," he said. "Winter is still here. That root will grow, but not without care." "Oh, I know," she replied, "and I'll keep tending." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded ribbon, the same navy one in her hair during her first dinner. He held it out. Anna lifted her fingers to accept it. "For your hair," he said, "when you speak tomorrow." She took it, voice soft. "Thank you." That night, after the last guest left and the greenhouse lights dimmed, Anna returned to the sapling alone. She touched the ribbon to its trunk and whispered, "Grow strong." Outside, snow drifted against the panes. Inside, roots wrapped themselves around soil, pushing toward life. And Anna, a gardener's granddaughter in velvet and determination, whispered back, "So will I." Winter's grip loosened as February ushered in a tentative promise of spring. The sapling in the greenhouse had pushed new buds, tiny green breaths of life defying the frost. For Anna, each bud was a reminder that change, however gradual or fragile, begins deep within. Her days had become a delicate balancing act, mediating donor talks, writing speeches, overseeing after-school sessions, all while attending school. But her heart had shifted. It no longer beat in fear, it beat with purpose. One morning, Claire found her in the breakfast room, sketching banners for the mentorship program. "Hard at work?" Claire asked, folding a fresh napkin with care. Anna nodded, tracing a ribbon logo. "I'm designing posters for the program launch." Claire smiled warmly. "You're growing into something extraordinary." Nonchalant and soft, the compliment buoyed Anna like sunshine. She glanced at the window, sunlight streaming through frost-speckled panes, staining the room with hope. Later, in the greenhouse, she checked on the sapling. Its buds had unfurled into delicate leaves. She shared a soft word with it. "You're not alone," she whispered. "We grow together." She found Ronald polishing bookshelves. "He's thriving," she told him quietly. He nodded, "Just like his gardener." Then softer, "Just like you." The mentorship program launched that afternoon, the main hall brimming with curly-haired girls, books balanced in arms, faces full of curiosity. Anna greeted each one with genuine attention, her simple questions weaving into stories of ambition and quiet bravery. A parent approached, tears in her eyes. "Anna, thank you. My daughter never believed she could do this." Anna knelt to her level. "She can, and she will." "Oh." The room hummed with possibility, words shared, dreams ignited, cloaked abilities unmasked. That evening, in the music room, she practiced a few waltz steps with Ethan's help. They stumbled and laughed. At one misstep, she caught her breath. "I forgot how good it feels to move simply," she said. Ethan grinned. "Maybe we can dance again someday without an audience." She nodded, eyes soft with longing. One day, news from the weekends brought fresh challenges. A critical article published in a local journal raised questions about the initiative's effectiveness, speculating whether Anna's age made the program unsustainable. Anna read it alone in the drawing room, fingers clenched around the paper. Self-doubt crept in, but before she could sink, Ronald entered. He placed his hand on hers. "Want to talk about it?" She exhaled. "They keep asking if I can lead this. If I belong here." He met her gaze steadily. "You're changing the story. That unsettles people. But you're not just where you belong, you're where we belong now." His words bolstered her, and she knew the truth. Leadership wasn't perfection, it was persistence. The next morning, Anna stood at a podium before teachers, parents, investors, and students. Behind her, banners read Elise Initiative, Growing Together. She smiled at the crowd and began. When this began, people asked, "Will a child lead this program?" My answer, "Number I won't lead. We lead together." She pointed to the sapling now displayed near the stage. This tree grew from a root clipped and carried across cold ground. It didn't do it overnight. And it didn't do it alone. Just like this. Initiative. It grows because we tend it, nurture it, and refuse to let frost stop us. Silence settled, then applause solid, resonant. A community-affirming growth rooted in shared care. That night, snow fell softly again. Anna stood by her window, the world white and wide. She pressed her hand to the glass, feeling the chill but knowing warmth beneath. Samuel found her there. "You did beautifully," he said. "It's not the speech, it's the truth in your promise." Anna nodded. "We're living it." He smiled, tears in his eyes. "You're living it." In the parlor, Ronald watched from a distance the man who once offered a bet and found a grandchild. He placed his hand over the music box's ballerina atop the piano. He whispered to its brass face, "You'd be proud." Inside, Anna closed her eyes and exhaled a breath of spring, resilience, and legacy blooming through winter's storm. Because some roots, when nurtured, become forests, and she was growing into one. Winter's thaw arrived like a quiet promise. The snow melted into damp puddles that reflected lazy spring light, and tiny green shoots peeked above the thawed ground. Inside Whitmore Estate, the heart of the Elise initiative was beginning to pulse with renewed momentum, but beneath the calm, tension still simmered. Anna woke to the distant bustle of greenhouse volunteers. She dressed and joined them at dawn, hands immersed in soil, planting seedlings destined for the new community garden. Her palms were cold, fingers stained with earth, a familiar grounding sensation after weeks of scrutiny and expectation. Claire found her arranging seeds. "You're up early," she said. Anna smiled, eyes bright. "I promised roots, not just ideas." Claire's smile warmed her more than the spring sun. "You're planting more than plants, dear." By midday, Anna walked through the estate's hallways carrying freshly printed flyers. Spring Open Day. All are welcome. Summer would bring more than lessons, it would bring unity. And she intended to make it happen. In the study, Ronald reviewed financial projections. Anna stepped in with her flyer. "She's made the public day official," he told a staff member. "Make sure security is discreet but present." Anna's excitement dimmed for a moment. "Are we safe enough?" Ronald looked up. "I want us open, not exposed. But I trust what you're building will protect us more than walls ever could." That evening, Anna held a planning session with volunteers. It was slow and deliberate, organizing tables, assigning instructors, scheduling performances by local youth. She watched as community members collaborated, teachers, youth pastors, parents working alongside estate staff. It struck her. The initiative had become less about her or the estate, and more about shared hands crafting shared futures. Midweek, an envelope arrived from the press, a feature piece scheduled for the Sunday paper. Its headline, "From Ground to Glory: How One Child is Changing Community and Legacy." She read it over her grandmother's teacup in the sunlight. Words flowed. "She stands at the center of a growing garden and a growing movement." She blinked, emotion blooming in her chest. At dinner, the staff rallied around her. Claire brought a slice of pie. Samuel placed his hand on hers under the table. Ronald watched quietly, pride softening his posture. But the next day brought resistance. A board member vetoed the garden plan. "Too ambitious," he said. "Too public. We should scale back." Anna's chest tightened. This wasn't just doubt, it was fear of uncontrolled growth. She requested a meeting. In the greenhouse, under sprouting leaves, she faced the group. "This garden isn't surplus. It's symbol. Connection. Education. We crop weeds and grow food. But mostly, we nurture us together." Silence followed. Then Miss Pruitt, formerly distant, placed her hand over the plan and said, "Let's find the funding. We'll make room." Others joined. Slowly, resistance budded and bloomed into support. That night, Anna walked the greenhouse under lantern light, the sapling by her side. She tied the navy ribbon through a low branch. The new leaves glowed. Ronald approached silently. "You did that," he said. She nodded. "We did." He watched. "Your roots are taking hold, and so is your legacy." Outside, spring breathed through open windows. Inside, a gardener's granddaughter stood rooted strong, hopeful, unstoppable. And in the end, more than petals, a new beginning was blooming. Spring had fully awakened. The greenhouse was alive with the quiet hum of new life. Ferns unfurling, seedlings stretching, saplings bowing under soft afternoon breezes. Outside, The garden beds Anna helped plant yielded fresh herbs and flowers, their colors bold after months of frost. The estate felt more alive than ever, and Anna felt her role shifting, growing beyond expectation. She moved through the greenhouse like a conductor among notes, checking on progress, offering guidance to volunteers, and encouraging timid hands to plant stronger roots. A group of local girls were arranging a patch for marigolds, giggling when a stray sprig brushed their arms. "You know marigolds are protective flowers," Anna explained, kneeling beside them. "They keep pests away like our initiative keeps doubt from heart." They looked at her, eyes shining. One fingered a marigold petal. "Then I want plenty." Anna smiled. "Plenty it is." That afternoon, the main house hosted a small reception for donors, educators, and local officials. The hall was filled with laughter and purpose, banners of growing together reflecting gold in chandelier lights. Anna greeted guests with calm confidence, introducing herself as the initiative's founder and guiding tours through the greenhouse and community library. A woman approached with interest. "Your garden, it's beautiful, but how do you sustain it beyond this season?" Anna paused. She thought of soil, water, time. "By making it part of us," she replied. "We'll hold classes on urban gardening. We'll invite volunteers weekly. We'll keep this place alive because we belong to it." The woman nodded, thoughtful. "That's commitment." Inside the drawing room, donors murmured praise and quietly moved to pledge. The halls were warmer tonight, not just from spring, but from renewed faith in purpose. After the reception, Anna exhaled in the music room. The piano stood near the window, moonlight pooling on its keys. Samuel found her there, carrying 2 cups of tea. "You asked if this garden would last," he said, handing her a cup. "What do you feel now?" She sipped and thought. "Safe," she said finally. "And like it's only just beginning." He smiled, and she looked down at the sapling now almost as tall as her waist, its leaves a vibrant testament to her vision. Weeks later, news arrived that the Elise initiative had secured continued support. Grants from regional foundations, local business collaborations, and partnerships with schools made the garden and program sustainable for years. At the greenhouse, a plaque was installed among the plants. "Elise Initiative Garden, where roots grown roots." Anna stood barefoot in the soil beside the plaque, Samuel at her side. Ethan, holding her hand, helped read it aloud. "You've built something beyond this house," he said after clearing his throat. She looked up, eyes misty. "Beyond what they said a girl could do." He smiled softly. "Let's see how far roots can reach." That evening, Anna climbed the staircase to the tower archive and placed the small root cutting she'd carried earlier on the desk where the archives began. It sat among letters, photographs, contracts, history made new. She tapped it gently. "We grow. Mayu." Below, Ronald watched from the music room, seeing her figure framed by torchlight and history, hope in motion. The world outside the estate had changed too. News stories celebrated educational empowerment and community unity. Messages trickled in from across the state: teachers, parents, children inspired by her honesty, her clarity, her grace born from ground-up courage. In her room, Anna tucked under the ribbon she'd received that night, crossing off another day of dreams, planted qualities blossoming. She thought of Elise's memory, of Samuel's gardens, of Ethan's quiet strength, and she whispered, "I'll make you proud." Spring had come, but what was growing beyond floors and walls, beyond scars and silence, was something far more enduring. A movement rooted in truth, tended with love, and blooming toward tomorrow. That night, Anna slept, hearing only her dreams, and they were filled with endless green. Spring settled firmly, and with it came the promise of new growth. The greenhouse and garden were vibrant with fresh life, green leaves unfurling. Soil softened, roots deepening. What had once been delicate buds now swayed confidently in the gentle morning breeze, evidence of what patient nurturing could achieve. Anna moved among the plants, inhaling the scent of damp earth and possibility. In her hands, she held a stack of pamphlets for the initiative's next phase, a traveling mobile classroom that would bring lessons from Whitmore Estate to surrounding communities. It would mean building connections farther than ever before. She paused by the sapling that had once been a single root but was now taller than her waist. Its branches had a slight bend, testament to both strength and resilience. She placed a hand on the smooth stem. "We're ready," she whispered. Inside the estate, the atmosphere had shifted from cautious optimism to quiet expectation. The staff no longer exchanged worried glances. Instead, they greeted her with warm smiles and helping hands. Claire handed her a cup of tea with fresh mint from the greenhouse. "You've done something breathtaking, Anna," Claire said softly. Anna smiled, brushing damp strands from her face. "We've done it." That afternoon, a meeting convened with local school superintendents, teachers, and early childhood specialists. The mobile classroom would tour 5 towns, offering free tutoring, garden workshops, and mentorship sessions. Ronald listened from the corner, expression unreadable but posture relaxed. "This initiative has roots," he said when the meeting concluded. "Now it needs branches." Anna stood to speak. "Not just to branch, but to bloom. People need to see themselves as part of this, not as spectators." The educators nodded, energized by her vision. That evening, Anna found Ethan waiting for her in the greenhouse. He handed her a notebook filled with locations, schedules, and sketches. "These are the first routes," he explained. "We mapped community centers, parks, schools, places where soil isn't just earth, but hope." She gripped his arm. "Thank you." He shrugged, smiling faintly. "You inspire." As dusk fell, Anna stood outside, watching lamplights bloom along the driveway. In the distance, tendrils of community gardens marked where she once walked alone. Now, she walked among people whose lives intersected hers, teachers, students, families, all growing something lasting. That night, she climbed to the tower room and opened the archive. At the center was the sapling's root cutting, now thriving in a pot. She wrote in her journal, "Roots hold us when storms come, but branches take us forward." Weeks later, an early spring rain drizzled, pattering on the greenhouse roof. The plants welcomed it, and so did Anna. She led a planting session with local school children, muddy boots and laughter filling the air. Every small hand that pressed soil around a seed bolstered the future. At sunset, Ronald found her there. "You're blossoming," he said quietly. "I'm growing," she corrected. Together, they watched students splash in puddles, seeds sprout, and communities gather around green. Beneath the thawing ground, new dreams were taking root. Spring had come not just on warming branches, but in hearts and hands. And as long as roots held fast, new horizons would blossom. Summer tiptoed into the Whitmore estate with its promise of sunlit mornings and long, hopeful days. The greenhouse thrived, the garden bloomed, and the mobile classroom brimming with books and seedlings rolled out to distant towns. Yet amid this vibrant life, tension pulsed beneath the surface, as if the earth itself held its breath before the rain. It began with a letter, arriving in morning mist. "Dear Ms. Lawrence, it has come to our attention that the Elise Initiative is performing outside regulatory approval. Environmental and educational authorities may require assessment. Expect an audit." Anna held the letter, inked in official gravitas, her hands trembling. Claire placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We've prepared for everything," Claire whispered, but Anna felt a hollow ache. Was the threat legal or deliberate? A test of her resolve. That evening, the house glowed with lamplight, but Anna felt the walls press closer. She found Ronald in the study, reviewing financial spreadsheets by lamplight. "They're coming," she said, placing the letter before him. He scanned it, face stoic. "An audit is not unexpected. We will show them our transparency and our heart." Anna nodded. "I just hope they see more than paperwork." Ronald closed the folder. "They will." Weeks passed with the quiet intensity of midsummer. Auditors arrived with clipboards and questions on funding, curriculum, greenhouse safety, mobile unit logistics. They combed through records, inspected classrooms, interviewed volunteers. Each appointment felt like stepping onto a rickety bridge, balancing on expectations. Anna stood beside Ronald during the inspection, answering questions with clarity and calm, a small voice carrying conviction beyond its size. When the auditors left, Ronald let out a slow breath. "They saw it," he said. "Not just the programs, but the impact." That night, Anna slept fitfully, haunted by childhood memories of rainstorms. Perched on their porch, her mother's lullabies in the distant thunder. Morning came soft and golden. She found herself outside where the garden glistened with dew, the sapling reaching taller than she was before. She placed her hand on its trunk. "We made it," she whispered. Inside, the long-standing resistance had softened into cautious support. New teachers volunteered for the mobile classroom. Local journalists began telling stories of student success and gratitude. Donations resumed not in grand sums, but steady, patient investments from families and small businesses. Ethan returned one afternoon, holding a small workshop schedule he'd designed for local parks. "They asked for more outreach," he said. "This is our summer plan." Anna looked at him, pride blooming in her chest. Roots, branches, then reach. He grinned. "Exactly." That evening, a summer storm rolled in thunder, low and rolling, rain drumming on the greenhouse roof. Inside, Anna rehearsed a short speech she had been asked to give at a regional philanthropic gathering. She looked at her reflection in the window, face lit by candlelight, the storm outside mirroring the challenge she'd weathered. When the storm finally passed, she carried her speech to the music room. The storm had washed the air clean, leaving golden lamplight and soft warmth. Ronald appeared quietly. "You ready?" he asked. "I am," she said, "because storms remind us what's solid." He tucked a hand into hers. "Then speak the truth you've lived." At the gathering, Anna stood before a room of dignitaries, educators, philanthropists. She opened with conviction. "We are not here merely to give. We are here to grow, because every child deserves roots and every community a chance to reach." Her speech wove stories of students finding voices, families planting gardens, teachers rediscovering hope. She stood firm, not as a girl leading an initiative, but as the gardener's granddaughter holding the future in quiet hands. When she finished, the room erupted in applause, standing, unwavering, affirming. Afterward, a board member whispered, "I underestimated you." Anna smiled softly. "I'm not a surprise. I'm a result of love, roots, and relentless care." No. Back at the estate, the power of her words continued blossoming. More towns requested visits. Schools invited her to lead trainings. Media asked for features not sensational, but sincere. And in the greenhouse, new shoots grew in rich soil, blossoms opening towards summer light. That night, Anna stood by the sapling now nearly as tall as she had grown herself. She tied a small ribbon of summer's gold around its branch. "We're still growing," she whispered, and she knew, deep in her bones, that the sun would rise always after storms, because roots that weathered winter and summer tempests stood ready to bloom anew, long after the thunder passed. And so would she. Summer light waned into a golden September warmth when celebration came. The greenhouse, the garden, and the mobile classroom had matured into something none could ignore, a living testament to perseverance and purpose. At the Whitmore estate, the evening air pulsed with anticipation, as guests gathered to mark 1 year of the Elise initiative. Anna stood at the threshold of the great hall, watching people begin to fill the space. Teachers, students, parents, community leaders, and even former skeptics slowly arrived. Her heart thudded not with fear, but something stronger. Pride. This was not the end. It was the beginning of something irreversible. Claire approached discreetly. "You're glowing," she said, though gently as if complimenting a flower ready to unveil itself. Anna nodded, brushing dust from her dress. "Feels like home." In the center of the hall, the sapling had been brought in and placed in a large pot, draped in ribboned lights. Its branches were full, leaves shone with life, and roots had grown deep. It stood not as an ornament, but as a symbol. Ronald stood by the sapling, watching the guests. He caught Anna's eye for a moment and offered the smallest, proudest smile. The ceremony began. First came speeches from local teachers praising the initiative's impact. Then parents spoke softly about how their children's eyes had changed, how the world suddenly felt full of possibility. When it was Anna's turn, she stepped onto the small stage beside the sapling. Her voice rang calm and clear. "1 year ago, this was just a root in a cup," she began, gesturing to the tree. "This initiative began with a waltz, an unlikely promise, and a little girl who chose to dance anyway." She paused, scanning the faces in the crowd, young and old, hopeful and curious. "But roots only mean something when they reach deep enough to break the surface. We weren't planted for survival alone. We were planted for growth. She spoke of summer workshops, mobile classrooms reaching hundreds of children, mentorships kindled, confidence reclaimed. Her words carried weight, not technique, but truth grounded in lived experience. When she finished, the room fell into silence. Then applause rose like a gentle wave, growing to leave no doubt. The seeds had taken. A reporter from a regional newspaper cleared his throat before making his way to her. "You've created more than programs," he said. "You've created trust." She smiled. "That's what legacy is." As the evening faded into starlit calm, Anna slipped into the greenhouse. Guests still milled outside, but here was silence, the gentle hum of plants and lights creating a soft cocoon. Samuel and Ethan joined her quietly. She placed a hand on the sapling's trunk. "We did it, didn't we?" she whispered. Samuel nodded. "You did it. I just helped tend." Ethan looked at her with admiration. "You are planting hope." She turned, eyes warm. "And I hope I never forget whose hope it is or why I needed it." Ronald entered then, his expression soft with recognition of what had been built, not just programs, but promises kept. He knelt beside the sapling and placed his hand above hers on the trunk. "This was all you," he said. Anna exhaled quietly. "No, not me alone." He nodded. Numbered together, they stood in silence, a gardener, a granddaughter, a friend standing among leaves that once were only dreams. Later that night, Anna sat in her room, the ribbon from the sapling now pinned above her desk, alongside the framed op-ed that started it all. She opened her journal and wrote, "Roots hold us, branches reach, but legacy grows when others take the seeds and make their own." She looked out at the estate glowing under moonlight, the garden, the greenhouse, the homes beyond, the schools reached by the mobile classroom. Sleep beckoned confidently now. She closed her journal. Heart quiet. In the morning, the sapling would stand too, its roots, branches, and legacy fully in bloom. Because when a gardener's granddaughter dances on a promise, she doesn't just change a house, she changes a world. The story of Anna teaches us that true transformation begins with belief in one's worth, in the power of community, and in the promise of nurturing what others overlook. Through resilience, compassion, and unwavering courage, Anna turned rejection into opportunity and planted hope where there was once doubt. Her journey reminds us that justice doesn't always shout, it often grows quietly, deeply, and unshakably, like roots beneath the soil. In the end, the greatest legacy is not in what we achieve for ourselves, but in what we sow for others to inherit.